Scientology could be called, well, you could call it a religion of religions.
Howdy everybody, and welcome to the Indie Scientology podcast. I'm your host Andy, an Ultra Space Cowboy, and these are closed-door secret briefings about vital information about Scientology and the world that you need to know. And today's briefing is fucking off its tits. And I'm sorry to start this off with a swear word, but this is just, whoa. I mean, you'll get ready. You're about to hear the deepest, epicest, most amazing data ever. Just whoa, just full-blown, hardcore truths about life here on Earth. Unbelievable truths about life here on Earth. I'm only going to do it for an hour tonight, and then I might have to do a part 2 and 3. This is something where it's like, this could go well into 3 parts. It's so deep, so much freaking data. So much needs to go into this. I'm going to go into what is OT8, okay? And yeah, it's really out there. It's just like, whoa. I mean, I can't talk this up more than anything. I mean, it's just, whoa. Okay. So basically, a confidential data warning to begin this briefing, right? I'm not going to say how to execute the auditing commands of OT8, okay? So, you're not going to, I don't know, mess up your mind if you want to try it or whatever, okay? I will mention 1 or 2 little things like ideas, but I'm not going to tell you, after listening to this, you're not going to know how to do OT8, but you'll have an idea, a little bit of an idea of what actually goes on, right? But mainly I'll deal about the whole idea of truth revealed, which is connected to OT8. This whole idea of truth revealed, what is the truth, right? And part of the EP to OT8 probably is you have a truth revealed as something personal to your case. But there's also a big truth revealed, right, as the truth about life here on Earth, like the collective truth revealed. It might have 2 sides to it. I don't know, I haven't run OT8 myself, I haven't done it. What I will say in this briefing is data that's just very deep. Okay, it's just very out there data. For example, let's say we're dealing with this subject of ufology, which is UFOs. And you were to take someone who was new to ufology and you said to them details about President Eisenhower making contact with aliens at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954, right? Now, the person who's new to ufology, right, or who doesn't know anything about ufology, it would just be like, whoa, it's just like, whoa, it's like up there. The person just doesn't know what to make of it. They don't have any datums of comparable magnitude. They don't know anything about that. I am like an amateur ufologist, so I know a lot about ufology history. So if there was going to be like a video on this meeting at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954, that's something I could follow along with, understand, and I wouldn't have a hernia. I wouldn't go, oh my God, that UFO group is retarded. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to go back to that UFO meeting again, them talking about Edwards Air Force Base in 1954. Like, it's not out reality for me. It's like, it's okay. So basically, what I'm going to talk about in this video is out reality, okay? So maybe you shouldn't listen to it, is what I'm trying to say, okay? If you're not ready for it, you might just be like, whoa, what the hell? Like, it might dirty your opinion of Scientology. Okay, I just want to say that, okay? But in order to understand OT8, you have to understand an insane amount of world history, and the real world history, not like textbook world history or something, real deep world history, and just occult secrets, and just full on, you're looking at you're looking at LRH basically saying is R factor on Earth. Like, this is what's going on here on Earth, right? But you can't even understand it unless you have so much life experience and so much looking into things. It takes ages to understand this. And what I'm going to do in this briefing is I'm going to give you the background data, because the problem is I've noticed that people who do OT8, Hubbard, there isn't that much writings on OT8, and people who don't know too much about the world, they go, what the hell is this OT8? What is this document I'm being made to read or whatever? And they can't understand it, because this is just L. Ron Hubbard's quick little summary in 1,000 words, where he really needs to do he needs to do a long 3-part briefing on what the hell he wrote in OT8, right? So I'm going to try and elaborate on this, right? And I'm also doing this out of the fact that the OT8 is already out of the bag. It's already there, it's already on the internet, so it needs to be addressed. Someone needs to do it, and someone needs to help Earthlings to understand what the hell is in OT8, because Hubbard just dropped a bomb of data that was just too deep for people. You have to think of Scientology or Hubbard's materials like maths or whatever. It's just a too high a gradient, and people are just like, whoa, what the hell? It breaks their reality too much, and they're just like, whoa, right? Especially when you factor in Scientologists are so busy with Scientology, because Hubbard had so many materials, that they kind of are only aware of Scientology and they don't know too much about the rest of the world. I mean, Scientologists know a fair bit, especially independent Scientologists, but there are a lot of Scientologists that, you know, I guess they're busy working with kids and stuff, and all they've studied is Scientology, and so then they get all the way up to OT8 and they're still like not aware of what's going on in the world, like fully, you know. I mean, they can still get scanned by like climate change, and like, I'm not saying the climate isn't changing, it's a whole long topic, but like they can still get scammed by fake shootings basically. It just like, it doesn't mean you're an amazing person when you get up to OT7, suddenly like you can spot a fake shooting, you know what I mean? Like, you need to study so much stuff to understand what's going on, right? So I'm doing this briefing because the cat's already out of the bag. And someone needs to come here and say what's going on and get corrected. And I was listening to stuff about OT8 today, and I went to listen to more while I was just cooking dinner, because I was going to do this briefing. But then I sort of went with, you know, do what thou wilt. Like, I didn't feel like listening to that stuff. I felt like I'd already listened to enough on OT8 and stuff, and I was more interested in listening to this UFO interview with John Lear. Art Bell was interviewing John Lear, and I'm going to put the link to this interview in the comment section, because it's extremely important and deep data that can help you understand OT8, right? And I was listening to it, and it was really cool. I was about halfway through, but then I was like, that was when I was like, you know, I've got to go listen to the OT8 stuff, and I listened to some OT8 stuff, and then I went back to the Art Bell interview, because I was like, this is interesting. And then it got onto really deep stuff that related to OT8. And so I was like, oh, synchronicities. This is where like God looks after me, or sort of like guides me towards, I'm just like a truth magnet. Like, I just get guided towards things, and they perfectly align to help me find out the truth. And that is how Do What Thou Wilt, the attitude of it, if you study Aleister Crowley's Religion Thelema, that is the attitude of it. You get in this thingo where you do what you want, and it's like your life mission, and it's your life purpose, and it all is perfect, and it's not hard. Like, if you're having challenges where you're pushing a rock up a hill, like you're trying to start a business and it just doesn't work out and stuff, it's actually because it's not part of your will. It's not part of like your God's purpose or something like that, and it's hard and it's difficult. And it's like the universe saying, no, do what's easy and cool. Anyway, so sometimes when you say, oh, let's do what's easy and cool, I actually want to listen to this interview with John Lear, it ends up actually being correct and the right thing to do, and it sends you on an interesting path. Anyway, I'm just saying. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, so I was just explaining that, because it was really cool, because I was just like, I mean, this data I came across in this John Lear interview was just like, whoa! It was just like, whoa, this is so freaking relevant to the OT8 briefing that I'm planning on doing. It was just like, thank God I freaking well wanted to listen to this interview and found it interesting. Because it wasn't dealing with religion. It was dealing with the UFO topic, and it was just interesting. But then I just went on to listen to it, and they got into some real deep stuff. Right? Because if you go to the bottom of the rabbit hole of ufology, you end up coming out seeing the connection with religion and stuff, and the truth about life here on Earth. And this is the same with Scientology. You keep on studying Scientology and other things, and you connect all the dots, and you get right to this top, and you full on understand Scientology fully. You end up understanding ufology, and you end up understanding the world and life and everything. It's really cool. You know, keep on pulling the string. You know, if you keep on pulling the string about the TV show Bold and the Beautiful, you just end up finding out about actors or something. Like, you don't get anywhere. Or you keep on pulling the string of, like, Manchester Football Club or soccer history, you just don't get anywhere. But subjects like ufology, Scientology, maybe Catholicism, maybe Aleister Crowley's religion, you know, they're like... Anyway, they're good strings to pull, basically. Look, maybe CIA, like the truth about CIA, right? That's a good string to pull. Keep on pulling that. You could end up coming up to the truth that I'm going to talk about in this briefing. Same as the Navy, truth about the Navy, because the Navy's all up with all this alien stuff. They know about it for sure. They're kingpins in the whole like UFO subject and stuff like that. Like, they're building their own and everything. But anyway, okay, so... Okay, I will get onto the John Lear stuff later, but I'll just talk about OT8 firstly. I'll say this. L. Ron Hubbard, I think, first started to come up with OT8 in the late 60s. Otto Roos did some of it. And he either didn't finish it, L. Ron Hubbard didn't finish it for a while, or he was just busy with other things. But in 1977, he wrote something like saying, you know, hey staff, get your stats up, be good, and then I'll be able to release OT8, right? And I think he might have even said that the organisation has some security problems or something like that. So he was sitting on OT8 for a while. And then he died, and it got released 2 years after he died on the Freewind ship. And they got the ship together and everything, and they released it. And for the first, like, month or 2 months that they released OT8, they had a document in it that's called the OT8 student briefing. And it's basically like a little briefing before you do OT8. And that briefing contained the hardcore data about the truth about life here on Earth that was too high a gradient, and people went PDS when they heard it because it was just too much. A lot of other people, I think, thought that it was, well, I think in the free zone, think that it's disinformation planted in the church in order to give Scientology a bad name, because it's gone out on the internet, and so now, you know, people hear it and go, oh my God, blah, 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 Scientology, can you believe they believe blah, 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 blah. And when I first heard of the document, I thought that this was disinfo. I thought, yeah, this seems like classic disinfo. It's like the enemy, because Scientology annoyed a lot of people. The enemy, you put in a document, you basically squirrel their OT8 and put in a document that makes it sound totally whacked, so that it stops Scientology from growing, and it makes people not like or do Scientology. But when I read it, by this stage, this was probably a few years ago, I'd already studied a lot of stuff, and like occult stuff, and I've heard some sort of top Freemasonry ideas. And so I read it and I was like, I was struggling to understand it, because this is another thing as well. Not only is it talking about really deep data and it's really brief, right? It's also written in the classic Hubbard way of like, what the fuck are you trying to say? Like when you read it, you're like, what? Like in his colourful way of expressing himself. So it reeked of Hubbardness the way it was written. So when I read it, I was like, well, if this is disinfo, they've impersonated his writing style to the T, right? Secondly, the information it talked about kind of made sense. I could make sense of it. I was like, yeah, I've kind of heard some of this stuff. Yeah, hold on. I could start piecing it together. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I thought, well, maybe they've added in some wacky stuff. Someone scribbled this and added in some outrageous stuff into a genuine Hubbard document, you know, to try and stuff it up. So that was probably what I was thinking. But a part of me was like, and this is where, you know, intuition, I have good intuition, or I just have, I don't know, God guiding me or whatever. But a part of me was like, there's something here. Like, this isn't just disinformation. This is, you know, this could be real. So I was like, I want to get to the bottom of this. So it takes ages to investigate these things, you know. So I looked more into the document and over time investigated and stuff. And basically I've come to the conclusion that this OT8 student briefing is by Hubbard. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm very sure. I'm very sure, because like, you have to study so much stuff. You have to study Crowley's stuff. You have to study Freemasonry. You have to study ufology. You have to basically Hubbard created something on OT8. He wrote something on OT8, and his discoveries on OT8, right, were so deep that it was almost too deep for Earthlings to handle, and it was almost too good, you know? It's kind of like you make spaghetti bolognese and the person goes and eats it and they're like, oh my God, and like they then like go, like they then, I don't know, get addicted to it, and then like all they eat is spaghetti bolognese and it wrecks their life or something because like they're so interested in spaghetti bolognese, right? Like, as in, what I'm trying to say is that maybe you can make spaghetti bolognese that's just too good. Anyway, in this OT8 thingo, it was too good. It was too like, whoa. It was just like, it's such deep data. Because I'm the sort of person, you know, like if I go to do OT8, you know, in the church, let's say I was going to go do OT8, I want full-blown, most hardcore, epic data. I want the truth about Earth, full on. I want to know epically what's going on. And that's basically sort of what Hubbard did in OT8, right? And I'll tell you what it has in this student briefing. Because just an introduction explaining basically sort of what OT8 is and the truth about Earth, right? So it absolutely delivered on its epicness. Now, what you run into with people, and I obviously, I mean, I assume I run into it with people who are watching my videos, is that when you give them the truth, because the truth is so strange, they don't believe it. They struggle to understand it. So basically, that's a big part of the problem that people run into on OT8. Or should I say ran into on OT8, because the church changed it. So what happened when it first got released for like the first 2 months, it had this student briefing in it that had epically deep data in it that people couldn't understand. And also, of course, was poorly written by Hubbard, which I'm sure everyone can agree on. We can't, like, Hubbard sometimes just writes things in just such vague, sort of crappy ways that just makes you go, like, have to reread it like a million times. It's not a study tech thing. It's a freaking old Hubbard just being totally funky in his communications. He's very funky. Okay, so The church cancelled this document, pulled it out of OT8 because people were going PTS and some people even died and stuff. Okay, so I'm talking about wild stuff. Now, those people who went PTS and died, right? We have to factor in that might be because they did the auditing incorrectly, okay? Or they received an incorrect OT5 or OT3 or whatever, okay? But this document certainly had a big part to play in the problem with OT8. So basically people couldn't handle it. Have you heard this? Have you heard the thing go, you can't handle the truth, right? That's basically what people run into on OT8. Someone like me, I'm cool with it. You know, I'm real uptone. I don't have many fixed ideas. I'm really open to ideas, but not like open in a retarded way where I just believe anything, but I'm very like open to the truth. I know epic stuff about what's going on here on earth. So if I went to read it in the church, I wouldn't have a hernia. I would read it and I would be like, whoa, this is deep. Anyway, so the church got rid of this OT8 student briefing document because it was causing problems. And apparently Miscavige said, before they released OT8, Miscavige said, we should take this out because it's just going to cause problems. And it did. So that's why within probably 6 weeks or something, they got rid of it because they could see how it was really causing problems. Because Miscavige is like more into administration and business and stuff and not so much the truth. Because if I was at the head of the church, there's no way I'll be taking that document out. What I would probably be doing is making people do OT8 in like 2 trips to the ship. One trip is just dealing in the introduction document and then send them off home and collect datums of comparable magnitude and investigate it and then send them back to do the auditing. Because what they read in this introduction briefing, I'm talking about a 2-page document. It's such deep data, right? Maybe it's 3 pages. It's such deep data that it's just like they can't handle it. And maybe I would have, if I was Miscavige, I would have put in a higher check on people before they do this briefing. Because I'll work out some sort of way to tell if they're one of these people that would freak out, okay? So, because some people they don't really know what's going on in the world and you just hit them with conspiracy about certain things and they're just like, what the hell? And they just like, whoa, you need to be like Alex Jones level to handle this document. You need to be L. Ron Hubbard level, okay? Of like, whoa, you can really handle the truth and stuff. Okay, so the church's OT8 from mid-1988 onwards has been squirreled. So it was only... Sorry, I'll elaborate. It's quite possible that the auditing side has been shortened as well and might have been shortened from day one. Okay? I'm not sure about that. Okay? But it certainly is short. It seems like it's shortened now, OT8. So you're not getting the student briefing document that I'm telling you about, and you're also the actual auditing part of it is like 50%. So you're getting shortchanged, okay? But maybe when they first released OT8 for that first 6-week period or whatever, maybe the auditing actually wasn't shortened. Maybe they took out the briefing and then they also shortened the auditing and took out the auditing bit that kind of related to the briefing, okay? A little bit, like it relates a little bit specifically to the briefing. They might have taken that out as well because they might have looked at it and said, well, you know, we've got to fix this up, this level, because people have gone wild on it. Okay. So, I don't know where to start with this, right? But basically, Hubbard says the truth about why, I guess, we can't go exterior with full perception, because the whole idea of Scientology, I guess, is to be able to leave the body, because it's all about us being trapped in these bodies by like the aliens or whatever, trapping us here in bodies. And it seems like it's all about getting us to be able to be OT and to leave our bodies and stuff. Well, Hubbard hits us with a big bomb on OT8, in that he says, suddenly he says, oh, you know, I tried to make an OT. I tried to make an OT. I tried to make an OT all the way through. You know, he goes, I thought you needed the Purif. You know, I thought it was OT3. You know, I thought it was the clearing course that will handle it. And he ended up saying, no, it's the body. The bodies are preventing us from going exterior with full perception and stuff, from going free. And he says, on OT8, you've got to handle the body. The body is important, right? And that's a fairly big datum or whatever, and it makes sense really, because it's like, I've always thought, you know, like I've always known about the aliens making bodies here on Earth and stuff, and how they seem to be able to make bodies with high IQ or low IQ, and I always thought, why would they make a body that allows us to go exterior? Wouldn't they make a body that can't, that's specifically designed to trap the Thetan so the Thetan can't get exterior? You know what I mean? Wouldn't they make a body like that? Anyway, but it's just interesting that Hubbard like ends up doing a backpedal, because Hubbard talks about the Thetan for years and years and years, like, oh, the Thetan, it's the Thetan that's important. Don't worry about the GE, which is the body. Don't worry about the genetic entity or whatever. He sort of ignores it and says, oh, it's the Thetan, you know, Thetan, and he just like has a hard on for the Thetan. And then suddenly he's like, oh, the body's actually important. And he leaned towards this when he released the Purif in where was it, the mid-70s or late 70s? He started to go back towards the body, because he started, I guess, realizing that things weren't working out how he wanted them to be. All right, so basically on OT8 you deal with a lot of stuff in the history of man. You can just read History of Man, and that has a lot to do with OT8. Okay, so you can, right there, you can actually hear the freaking auditing commands. You can actually read how to do them. well, or get an idea of how to do them, or run them, or whatever. That's why you can say, oh my God, Andy, you're doing a briefing on OT8, how dare you? And it's just like, well, History of Man's available, and that's like the textbook for OT8. History of Man is a textbook for OT8, okay? So you can tell, if you've read History of Man, you know it's really out there incidents and stuff, and really out there implants. So the real big data, besides just this body thing, I'm just saying you got to deal with the genetic entity in OT8 or whatever. And so because he does a backpedal, people get a shock by that, because they're like, oh, what? We suddenly have to deal with the body, and like, it's this document that he says is such an amazing thing, because he says, I need a good body to reincarnate in, otherwise I can't be an OT8 next lifetime. That's what he says in this OT8 document. So people who have been bought into all the sales talk, the reg talk and stuff of Scientology, are thinking Hubbard's this amazing OT, he's the most amazing guy ever, he's going to leave and go off into Wonderland or whatever and help the world, like the universe or whatever, and if he comes back to Earth, he can just come back to Earth. But then they're like, suddenly like, what? Hold on a second. He's saying, I'm not that good, I'm not that OT, I need a freaking good genetically pure body to go into, otherwise I'll end up being a dumbass and I won't be able to exteriorize. That's basically what he says. I'm serious. He literally pretty much says that. He says, whoa, next lifetime, I need a good body to come to. So basically do this OT8 to improve the GE. So suddenly he switches from being all about Thetan to suddenly like, oh, the bodies here on Earth are actually important. because all throughout the religion he just ignores the body, and Scientologists had this idea of ignoring the body and saying it's not important, and they smoked their cigarettes, and Hubbard used to drink Coca-Cola. So we had like this whole fuck the body attitude, right? And I used to have it when I was involved with the church as well. He has this thing where it's just like, it doesn't matter, it's the spirit that matters, and auditing the spirit or whatever, all this sort of stuff. And then suddenly, and he also mocks Hitler in what's it called? In Battlefield Earth, he mocks Hitler for having this idea of having a racial purity or whatever and that sort of stuff. Right, he has like a little joke mocking Hitler. I don't know if he just put that in as a joke because it is a funny bit. But he sort of mocks Hitler, but the thing that the Hitler and the Nazis were all about was improving the bodies here on Earth. It was all about eugenics. And guess what? The powers that be, the evil New World Order, the people who have strong influence here on Earth, guess what they're all about? Degrading the body, okay? And fucking the body up so they can enslave us even more. Anyway, so Hubbard, in this OT8 student briefing, he just does this sort of backflip where you're like, whoa, what the hell? Like, people get a little bit shocked because it's like, whoa, hold on a second. I thought Hubbard was this amazing OT and not even he can go free. I have no freaking hope of going free. He's telling me that he has to come back and go into a genetically pure body in order to be able to function and go exterior and continue his work. Like, it changes everything. It suddenly switches, Scientology switches from dealing in the Satan to dealing in the genetic entity to being a eugenics group, basically. And eugenics is just improvement of the DNA of the human race. And of course, there have been some evil eugenics. So eugenics has got a bit of a bad name because you can use eugenics to degrade the human race, like give them more diseases, lower their IQ, make them evil, seriously. Or you can use eugenics to eradicate diseases, make people stronger, make people healthier, make people better looking. You know, you can use eugenics either way. So Hubbard suddenly gets Scientologists to get involved with the GE and auditing the GE so that the bodies here on Earth either remain, so the bodies here on Earth remain genetically pure, which is like better, like this, so that the bodies enable us to go free, basically. It's kind of like the E-meter. If your body's in a really bad condition, you go on the E-meter, you can't audit the Satan. You have to work through the body. The body's a tool. So basically, Hubbard's saying, whoa, I've been ignoring the tool for a while. We have to look after the tool now in order to go free. And I think it really shocked people that Hubbard would suddenly validate the body in such a way, because for so long he'd been invalidating the body, and how he said he needs to go into a genetically pure body, right? And what he says is that the SPs, right, the evil beings, the evil gods, have created an implant that degrades the body more and more and more and makes the body more and more a trap of the Satan. And Hubbard's saying, this is what I'm coming up against. These bodies have been degraded and they're designed to trap the Satan. Now, that isn't just what he says in this OT8 student briefing, right? Which is groundbreaking. And also the fact that he says, you know, I tried the Purif, I tried the Clearing Cross, I tried OT3, and he goes, I thought that would handle it. He openly admits that he says, yeah, this is going to get you free, this is going to work, blah, 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 blah. And then years later, it's like, oh, that kind of didn't work. Okay, we're going to try this now. This seems to work. Yeah, this is what's it. This is what's going to do it. This is what's going to set you free. And then you start selling this next level like OT3 or Clearing Course or whatever. Right? Because he's been doing it all the way through his invention of Scientology. He releases more things, right? But I could tell from day one in Scientology that he engages in sales bullshit. Like, he just talks things up. It's just how he is. He's like Trump, right? But other people who aren't as bright, they literally buy into what L. Ron Hubbard says, and they actually think that, yeah, this really is the cure of this. And this really is going to, like, they really think that it can totally do what Hubbard says for everyone. But it's just like, that's not the case, man. Hubbard's just engaging in sales talk. Yeah, like it might have gotten a few people exterior or whatever, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to get exterior. Anyway, basically the fact that he says that, you know, proof didn't work and the clearing course didn't work, but now this will work, like it makes you go, oh, so I'm sort of like getting taken along for this journey ride with Hubbard, and he sort of talks shit. Like, you basically are like, oh, by you saying this in this student briefing document, you know, the things that I paid thousands and thousands of dollars for, and you just basically admitted that you lie, pretty much, that you talk shit and lie. And it's just like, yeah, bright people already sort of knew that anyway, but other people are like, really like, oh my God, that's so offensive, and like, why have I wasted all my time doing Scientology run by this guy who isn't as smart as what I thought? And he's not even fully OT himself. I thought he was like the most amazing being ever, because he put up, using public relation and advertising, he talked himself up into this character, Hubbard, into this amazing superhero guy. And in this briefing, he's like, oh, he's basically saying, oh, by the way, I'm not that amazing. You know, I've still got to come back to a body that's like good and stuff. Otherwise, I can't even continue my work. It's like, whoa. It's like it's a big bomb to drop. The next thing that he states is relating to religion and Christianity. And this is another, there's probably, I would say in the document, there's probably like 4 points that are like big bomb dropping, 4 certain things that are big bomb dropping that's going to possibly send someone PTS. That's why after you read the whole document, some people definitely went PTS, because it's like, whoa. There's just like basically ARC break, basically. There's like 4 bomb dropping truth datums that are just like people weren't prepared for, didn't have enough knowledge to get, and it's possibly going to ARC break them. And a lot of people were disaffected after doing this level. And but I didn't mention as well, the church asked those people who did the level to come back and get fixed up on it. With the new fake version of OT8, right? Because they had to handle it because it was a PR flap, and it was like, whoa, right? So I think they made it basically a quickie, streamlined version that was easier and stuff. Basically, similar to what they've done with GAT2. They did this to OT8 to handle this problem that was coming up with the people who did it in the first 6 weeks. Anyway, the next huge point that he brings up in this document is the truth about Christianity. And that relates to this video I'm going to play here, which is not by Scientologists, but actually John Lear has done a little bit of Scientology. He did it back in the 70s. So that's partially why he's such a genius, because it helped, I guess, open up his mind and stuff, and it helped send him in a funky direction. Because he wasn't a conspiracy theorist or ufologist until the 80s. He became in the 80s, and he did Scientology in the late 70s, so it helped evolve him and improve him as a person. So the truth about Christianity that Hubbard says in this is basically Christianity is a control system of these evil alien / God / interdimensional beings. Because you have to understand, whenever you see an alien, that could be for another dimension, and that could also be like a spirit that's just materializing to just do something, and then it goes back to a spirit. So it's really tricky areas, you know what I mean? Like the word alien / interdimensional being is like sort of the same thing. Like it's a tricky thing. Alien's a good word to say it. Basically, alien, something is just like not from Western society. It's not from here. You know what I mean? It's different. It's a good word. You just say alien. It's just like, it's from out there, you know. So what he says, that basically that Jesus was from a alien civilization, and he was sent here to enslave us, pretty much. And he pretty much implies that Jesus and Christianity isn't a good thing. And so, of course, you can imagine how that could really ARC break people. Now, of course, Scientologists, especially people who've gotten all up to OT8, were probably aware that Christianity is a bit dumbed down. We're aware that it's not that good a religion. But they weren't necessarily aware that Jesus was an SP. And it's kind of a big statement. Because I thought, oh yeah, Christianity, like it's dumbed down, and the textbooks has been edited, highly edited and changed, and you know, I didn't quite understand the history of it all and how Christianity really was a slave-making system, basically. Because you have to study so much world history to understand this. You see what I mean? Like, for example, Christianity brought about the Dark Ages. Like, if you look 2,000 years ago, right, you know, you had the Greeks, you had the Romans. I mean, like, science was advancing and all this sort of stuff. And then suddenly, for 1,000 years, we went backwards. And it wasn't until the Renaissance around the 1500s where we started evolving again and inventing new technology, and philosophy started coming out. And now we've got 500 years later, like, now we've got bases secretly on Mars. Pretty much, when we're flying around secretly in UFOs, and we've got amazing technology and stuff, and we've got the internet and stuff that came from these government secret programs and stuff. They had it before us, just like the same as UFOs. Eventually, we'll hopefully get the UFOs as well. And anyway, so Christianity brought about the Dark Ages. And what it did was that what we were practicing before Christianity came along and wrecked everything, and I'm just telling the truth here. I'm not saying that, you know, the average Christian priest is mean or anything, or, you know, Christians are bad. I mean, a lot of them are well-meaning, nice people, and they're like cool social clubs and stuff, but they absolutely spiritually dumb you down like a motherfucker. They are just like, they don't make witches and wizards, like good witches and wizards. Like, I'm like a good wizard, basically. Like, except I don't engage in too much funky spiritual stuff, but like, as in, I'm interested in all that funky stuff. You know what I mean? I'm like Harry Potter. Do you see what I mean? Christianity basically says, oh, all that funky spiritual stuff and that magic, and that's all bad. Oh, no, just follow this book and follow Jesus and blah, 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 and all these rules, and it constricts the person and it puts them into this tight control system, right? And before we had Christianity, we had paganism, and paganism is basically Harry Potterism. It's Harry Potter shit. It's like magical stuff. Harry Potter was written by a chick, a classic Aryan chick, by the way. I just want to mention that because she's got the blue eyes, the blonde hair. She just reeks of Aryanism, and the whole story of being like good versus evil and inspiring you and stuff, and not being degraded, dirty art. I mean, I just have to tell you all the truth because you have to understand it. She's basically classic Atlantean, J.K. Rowling. And the fact that she's such a genius is just classic. She's basically a witch, but she doesn't come out and say it openly because it would be terrible for the Harry Potter sales. And do you see how much data? I have to go into Harry Potter to explain this briefing. There's so much data to understand all this, right? And you're just like, what the hell is talking about Harry Potter? What Harry Potter is paganism. It's magic, it's witches and wizards and stuff. It's cool shit. It's cool tech, you know? And we were into all that stuff back in Europe. That was our religion. It was cool shit. It was interesting stuff. Then Christianity came along and shat all over it and made it all nasty, and they killed witches, and they had this Catholic Church that took over and controlled everyone and said, yo, you can't do this and you can't believe that and stuff. And basically, spiritually, we became really dumbed down. And fascinatingly enough, it also dumbed down our philosophy and our technology, and like we just didn't advance because we were advancing up to that point. So then, as Christianity got less and less popular, and these secret societies started like growing more and more, like around the 1500s and stuff, people who were intellectuals like me and, you know, like Galileo and stuff like that, who were into all this stuff and are just obsessed with the truth, and also just have high IQs and can work out the truth, because some people, they can be interested in this stuff and they just can't come to correct conclusions. They just can't find whys and stuff. Like, it's just, they don't have the ability. I'm sorry. Like, some people are just really special and out there, like me, working out the weather control technology and stuff. Some people, the government can be secretly manipulating the weather for years after years after years, and they have no idea. Other people are like, whoa, there's something going on, and they can actually start working it out. Anyway, everyone's got different abilities. So as these secret societies started developing, the reason they were kept secret was because they were scared of getting attacked by the Catholic Church, pretty much, by the churches and stuff, and by the average person, because now the average person had been brainwashed in Christianity, and so now if you're into funky Harry Potter witches and wizard stuff, then they're, oh, that's weird, or whatever. So secrets, and they'll get attacked. So secret societies evolved, basically. That's why, you know, if you hear about someone who's in Freemasonry, they're called Frater 622, not Jim West, because they need to use a fake name like Frater 322, because it's part of the whole secret thing. You see what I mean? Like, they get involved with this group, and, you know, you're dealing with stuff that can get you in trouble with the church and society and stuff, so you use a fake name. So if you ever look into some of these secret societies, they'll use like a number. It's in the Simpsons episode. Look, watch the Simpsons episode where they have the Freemasons. They're doing a comical impersonation of the Freemasons, and they're called like the Stonehengers or something. I can't remember, but you know, they got that song, you know, we do, who keeps who keeps the electric car down, who keeps the metric system down, we do, and it's got like Homer in it, and remember he like smashes through the ceiling. Anyway, as a kid you see these things and you don't have any idea this is based in reality. And you're like, wow, there really are secret societies where guys get together on like a Tuesday night and they go into a building without any windows and stuff, these Freemasonry halls, and they learn interesting secrets and stuff, and you're just like, whoa, I mean, there's so much going on, right? So anyway, so basically from the 1500s onwards, Christianity got less and less and less popular, and we evolved more and more and more and improved. So Christianity is bad, but it's a big thing to confront, because people can go, oh yeah, Christianity got bad because it became like a Catholic Church and control system and all this sort of stuff, but Jesus is good. And I kind of thought, yeah, Jesus was this good spiritual guy, but then I was always suspicious. I was always like, but you know, what is he like and stuff? And we're going to go into areas that's just like really deep right now and stuff, and it has to go into racial areas. It just has to go into it because you won't understand. It's such deep data. Hubbard doesn't even elaborate on this in the OT8 briefing because I think because it'll be even more out PR. But I think that he properly should have explained it, right? Like fully, if you're going to bring it up at all. But he just said, all right, I'm just going to do a summary. And because he didn't want to go into, it was already so out PR, but he could, if he elaborated and made it 7 pages, he could have been really even more out PR, like disgracefully, right? So he had to be enough to lead people to the truth who were clever and could work it out. But yeah, anyway. So I was like, I'd heard all these stories. I'd always been trying to understand what is the deal with Jesus' life, who was he and stuff. And my conclusion was that he was an alien, and he was here on a mission as an alien. And you know, there's UFOs in the Bible stories and stuff, and basically Jesus is a UFO cult, literally, and that's how these religions start, because we're such primitive earthlings. When aliens we come across them, we're so blown away that we end up worshipping them, and it becomes like some sort of religion. And to this day, right now, there are people who are in contact with aliens, UFO people who are in contact with aliens, and they've got almost like their own little UFO groups going. They're almost like little religions, you know. They think that they're just their little UFO group, but it's sort of a religion. And as time goes on, if these groups hang around in 100 years' time, it will be like a religion. A religion is just what you believe about the world and stuff. That's pretty much what a religion is. And scientists, mainstream scientists, are like almost their own religion, because they go off faith as to what a scientist says. Anyways, so so in this document, Hubbard basically says Jesus was a bad guy, and that really like makes people go, whoa. But he doesn't just say that. He also says Jesus was a pedo. And so that's a big statement. I mean, that's like, whoa. Now, that's one thing that I almost can't fact check. Like there are, like I just don't know. I cannot confirm whether or not he's a pedo or not. I can't. But the thing is that maybe I can. I have looked into it, and homosexuality was very different those days, back 2,000 years ago. I think it was maybe Christianity somehow, even though potentially a homo started Christianity, right? Christianity became very anti-homo. But Christianity was sort of created 300 years after Jesus, and it sort of evolved over time. But anyway, Christianity became quite conservative and anti-homo. And so we're in quite an anti-homo society, and I actually think it's kind of a good thing, but that's a whole other story, and I don't want to open up that can of worms. Basically, it's a mental illness, so it's just like, I'm never for anyone being mentally ill. Anyway, now, but it could also be a genetic thing, like eyeglasses. Like they've got something wrong with their eyes. Some of them have definitely genetically got something wrong with their eyes. Like there's all these Taiwanese people who have to wear glasses. I don't think it's because Thetans with eye aberrations are going into Taiwanese bodies. I think it's because the Taiwanese body contains eye aberration. Absolutely. And that I guess relates to this whole genetic entity idea and the body and stuff, and it relates to this briefing. Anyway, because you need to know these facts. People don't know that there's all these Taiwanese people that wear glasses. Just heaps of them wear glasses. People don't know that there's all these black people that are fantastic at jumping. You know, people don't know that there's all these white people that are fantastic at like science fiction and like sending a man to the moon. It's like totally what they're interested in and stuff, and conspiracies as well. So you need to be able to spot the differences between the body types, because these are the tools we've been placed in. And you need to know different things that the tools do. Anyway, so, about Jesus. Back 2,000 years ago, homosexuality wasn't as outrageous. It wasn't as an outrageous thing. Also, it seems like the Greeks, and Israel was not far from Greece and stuff. Like it's possible there were a lot of people in Israel who also spoke Hebrew and Greek as well. Like, so it's just like, whoa. the Greeks had some tradition or something where a man would, like a teenage boy, would be coming into manhood, and then a man would go and take him hunting and teach him about some things and hunting, and would also fuck him in the ass. And I don't know if he would fuck him in the ass or give him a hand job or something, but he would have sex with him. And this is, I don't know why, but this is just what happened back then. It was just like, it was just the done thing. Like they'll go and the young boy, they'll go out camping with the young boy and like a 13-year-old boy, and I guess maybe they'll teach him about the stars and they'll teach him how to shoot an animal, and that would also fuck him. And I don't know if it was some sort of spiritual ritual or something, or maybe it was teaching him about sex or something. But it was different back in those days, so it wouldn't have been as strange as it would be now. Like now it's illegal and it's pretty outrageous, but back then it was a lot more normal. Like society was so different back then, totally different, just so different, right? There's also some rumors, if you look into it, about Jesus being gay. Also some rumors about Jesus coming out from a bush or something, and there were some little boys there or something. So I don't know with certainty that Jesus was gay or a pedo, but to me, it's not completely outrageous, right? So anyway, so you can see how in this OT8 document, it just says such outrageous stuff that you think it's a prank, you think it's government disinfo, but it's just truth about the world, and we have gone into so much, we've gone so far away from truth, it blows our mind. For example, 9/11. The average person has gone into so much lies about what happened on 9/11. Or we've got the mass awakening now, and I reckon so many people know it's the government who did it. But let's say with the coronavirus that we're having right now, it's a fake pandemic. So it's going to go down in the history books as this big event that happened and all this sort of stuff. And in 1,000 years' time, let's say Andy goes and visits Earth, and Andy would just be like, this is not the truth. I mean, I was there. This bug killed barely anyone. It was borderline harmless. The mainstream media completely exaggerated it and used it as an excuse to pass vaccine laws, to crash the economy and make money on the share market, to bring in travel controls, to bring in ID controls, to do this, to do that. We'll find out because we're in it right now. I can't wait till we fully work out, but just yesterday they passed a vaccine law saying you can't visit your grandma at a nursing home unless you've been flu jabbed. More and more things. And the flu jab didn't prevent corona, and the flu jab has nothing to do with corona. So I could go to my grandma, give her corona, or I could be harboring it, give her corona, and I could get flu jabbed, and it has nothing to do with it. So it's just, it's so obvious that they just wanted to pass vaccine laws. You know what I mean? They were just looking for an excuse to pass these vaccine laws. They've already made it so that poor people can't get their government welfare unless they've vaccinated their kids or other things, and so they're just ratcheting it up slowly and slowly. But we're still winning. The fact that they're pulling a stunt maybe shows that they're desperate because they're just failing. They're just failing. And a lot of people, you go around, and a lot of people are like, not in Australia, not even wearing masks, and not even like really avoiding people. And a lot of people are like, yeah, this is all hype and stuff, and it's just like we're getting too awake. We're just not buying it. You know, we're just not buying into it. Anyway, so the whole of the race of Earth, all the Earthlings, can all go off into fiction land with like the coronavirus and stuff like that, and 9/11, and even World War II as well. There's a lot of truth about World War II people don't know. They go into fiction land, and it's only really a small amount of people, I shouldn't say all, only a small amount of people that actually remain to the truth and actually are smart enough to work out the truth and don't get tricked. And they're known as the kooks and the conspiracy theorists and the weirdos and stuff by the mainstream. So you can understand how Christianity and the truth about Jesus and stuff can all go off into fantasy land, and people can end up believing in lies, and only a few people can retain the truth about what's actually going on. Now, so the next point that's outrageous in this OT8 student briefing, well, actually, no, I'll save the rest, but there is something I want to play here, because I should wrap up this video, and it's basically John Lear. So basically what I'm saying is that Christianity is a control system. And Hubbard actually says that the secret societies are now infiltrated in their control systems as well. And the other religions are control systems. And when you see Christianity, Judaism and Islam, and you see how they all stem from the same religion, they're basically the same religion. They're all the same control system. It's just that at 1,000 years later, some guy popped up and said, "Oh, I'm the special Muhammad," and he slightly changed the writing, and then the Muslims go off in their direction. They split away from Christianity, but it still stems from the same evil root, right? So these things are control systems, right? So, control systems used by aliens who are enslaving us here on Earth. So this John Lear interview gets into this topic, because what happens is, you've got to listen to the whole interview, but I don't know if you know anything about Art Bell, but Art Bell does long, thorough, good interviews. He's dead now, but he was in the 90s and the early 2000s, he did heaps of great interviews, and he was like Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan. He did long interviews where he let people speak, and he did interviews about deep secret things about the occult and things about ghost hunting and things about UFOs. There was a lot of UFO stuff and things about, I don't know, advanced technology, but it was all the unusual stuff, and people got to call up the show and say their unusual experiences that they've had, like times where they maybe predicted the future and stuff. He would go into remote viewing. Right, Art Bell was a huge part of the truth movement that we see today, because now it's reaching the masses, but in the 90s it was a small community of unusual people, truthers and stuff, and conspiracy theorists, and they loved Art Bell, and Art Bell helped them network and talk and grow their knowledge. If you got the 100 best Art Bell interviews and listened to them all, you would be so much wiser, and I absolutely recommend it. I've listened to tons of Art Bell interviews. You just get all this data. There's all this data about interesting things, and you can collect data, and you're like, whoa, and then you can understand things in Scientology, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, like you just, the data in those Art Bell interviews is data you need to know. It's very important, all right? So John Lear knows about UFOs and stuff, and John Lear, it's called the John Lear debrief or something, or the John Lear briefing, and he basically says for 6 minutes, he basically says the summary of the truth about the UFO subject here on Earth. And of course, the truth about it is it goes into religious stuff, because you need to understand it all. But he lays down the truth, like he says, you know, there was UFO crashes before Roswell, then there was Roswell, and the public found out about that. And then there's been abductions, and then we've made some treaties with some alien races, and we've been building UFOs at Area 51. And so he basically does the whole summary, because he's a very smart guy. He gives the whole summary of what the truth is about the UFO subject, and it's really deep. Then he's talking with Art Bell, and they get on to religion and stuff, and the truth about who we are here on Earth. And basically, John Lear says that the religions were, like, basically the religions were created by the aliens to control us. And he says, and this was like, whoa, because I'd listened to this interview years ago, but I hadn't quite heard this point. He says that, yeah, Jesus was a part of this. And it's like, whoa, real deep data, right? And you find out where John Lear got his data from, right? John Lear was friends with Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar is a scientist that worked at Area 51 for a short amount of time, but then he invited his friends to go and watch UFOs that were test flying from a distance. got busted and they were like, hey, we let you work here at Area 51. What the hell are you doing telling your friend John Lear and other ones where we fly our secret UFOs and stuff? And he kind of borderline got fired, but he actually quit, to be honest. But he quit, guess what? Because this is why you have to know so much and it's so deep. He quit because basically when you go and work on these underground bases, you go there, they do something that wipes your memory every time you finish a day of work. So you go home at night and if someone says, what did you do at work today? You go, I can't remember, because you had your memory wiped. And then you go to work the next day and you work and you get your memory wiped and then you go back home and then they say, what did you do at work today? And you go, well, I remember I caught the bus to the airplane and then we got on the plane and we were flying there and I can't remember anything past that. Because this is the amazing technology the government's got, and this is how they keep these secret bases secret, because they've got amazing stuff like that. Okay, they've worked out how to control your mind and your memory and stuff. Anyway, Bob Lazar said he didn't like how he couldn't remember what the hell he was doing at work. He thought it was weird, and so he quit. Right? But he got, in the short time he was there, he got the briefings as the truth about the UFO subject from the government, okay? Because you think Andy Nolch or whatever, or John Lear knows the truth about the freaking well aliens, the damn well government knows the truth. The secret intelligence agents who are monitoring this stuff, who are interviewing people who have been abducted, who are interviewing people who have seen UFOs, who are actually meeting with aliens and getting data from them about the universe, they're the ones who really know. Naval intelligence are the ones who really know the truth about the UFO subject. It's just that they're not telling us. It's kept totally secret, right? Anyway, so John Lear got these briefings. No, sorry, Bob Lazar got these briefings before he started working on the UFOs and stuff. The briefings were saying stuff like, you know, we got this flying saucer from Roswell or whatever, and, you know, the aliens are called the Greys and they're from Zeta Reticuli. And I've studied ufology and there's all this other data out there backing up what Bob Lazar says. Okay, so that's why it's like, well, I trust what Bob Lazar says. But also, if the government were just handing people who were new to the underground bases fake information about ufology, right, which is a possibility, the data checks out. It makes too much sense. There definitely seems to be Greys from Zeta Reticuli and stuff involved in all this, right? So I don't think that the briefing, the paperwork that Bob Lazar was getting before he was allowed to work on the UFOs, because he was going to work on them as a scientist, because he built like stuff and he built like a car with a jet engine and stuff. So he was a clever cookie. But he didn't know anything about these conspiracies, so he was like, whoa. So he was a total skeptic, like he had no idea about any of that. But when he first saw the UFO, he thought, oh my God, these UFOs that the bizarre people talk about, they're just seeing our secret government craft that we're working on and we're building. That was when he first saw a UFO. He was like, oh, that was just, these people have been seeing our secret government craft and they're getting tricked. Anyway, so we got these briefings. And the briefings contained hardcore data about the truth about Earth, basically. And it says that the aliens refer to us as the containers. What we are the containers of, you can only imagine. I'm quite sure it's the soul, the Satan. I think it's quite obvious. But it didn't say that though. The briefing didn't contain all the data, you know, but it said that, you know, the bodies here on Earth are containers. And that they abduct us and modify our DNA and stuff. And here's the big bomb, that the religions were part of controlling or the experiment of humanity here on Earth, and that Jesus was a part of it, right? Bob Lazar said Jesus to John Lear, because we're going off what John Lear said, right? Because the problem is, because Bob Lazar had his memory wiped, some stuff he can remember, some stuff he can't, right? But he, after he found out this data, because he was friends with John Lear, went to him and told him the information he got in these briefings, right? And they weren't just like 3 pages, they were thorough. There was a lot of study to do. But Bob's had his memory tinkered with. That's why if you go and see him and ask him, oh, what was this thing about Jesus, or what was this thing about seeing an alien, because he said he saw an alien, he'll backpedal and say, I didn't see an alien. But his has his mind tinkered with. He's been implanted, basically. So now he doesn't think that. But he does still remember some things. They didn't completely wipe his memory. And so that's where it's like it seems like there are people inside the government that do want the truth getting out and are kind of assisting the truth to get out and stuff. Anyway, I'd heard this interview before, but I hadn't heard this line where John Lear says about the Jesus thing, because I was like, whoa, this backs up what Hubbard says, doesn't it? This backs up what Hubbard says. Hubbard says data about the religions, and he says that the secret societies were infiltrated, like the secret societies were originally set up, were created and stuff by cool people who were wanting to try and find out the truth, and were trying to basically set us free, right? Then they got infiltrated, right? Because the bad guys always infiltrate, just like how the Church of Scientology has been infiltrated, right? To render it ineffective and make a slave out of people. Anyway, so Hubbard says the secret societies were good, but now they're infiltrated, right? So Hubbard basically says Jesus is an alien, he's part of the control system, and he was bad. This John Lear, this Bob Lazar, the documents that Bob Lazar reviewed said that humans, that, that the religions were a part of controlling us and stuff, and that Jesus and some other prophets were sent here to bring about the religions to control us and stuff. So basically, if you're Bob Lazar and you're reading these documents, your mind is blown in the same way that the OT8's mind is blown when they read this document by Hubbard, because they're like, whoa, they're finding out about the truth about humanity here on Earth, right? And so, there's so much data you need to see. Like, you need to know that you're a spirit, basically, to understand this briefing I'm giving, because a lot of people, it's not real to them. So you have to spend at least a decade of full-time study every day. I'm not exaggerating. I'm being serious. You need to spend a decade of full-time study of all this unusual data, all this investigation, right, in order to discover this truth, right? For me, it's true. I know. I've investigated it. It's very likely to be the truth, okay? I've done the 10 years of research or whatever, right? Maybe you need, if you're clever, you could do 7 years full-time of research. If you're slow, you might never come to the correct conclusion. I believe that some people just don't have the IQ for it, and they won't ever come to a correct conclusion. So they could do 10 years of full-time study, and they'll go, Hubbard's full of shit with his OT8 briefing, and John Lear's full of shit with his statement about Bob Lazar or whatever. Like, some people just can't find out the truth. They're just not as smart, okay? It's just the truth. And a lot of these people who are attacking OT8 and who attack Scientology, it's data that's too deep for them. But the data's out there. That's why I've got to comment on it and let you guys know the truth. I'm not for information being hidden. In the same way that the government is hiding information about the UFO data from us because they think we're not ready for it, because they think it might send us crazy, because they think it's too hardcore, I think that's freaking bullcrap. I totally disagree with that. I think that's wrong, and I damn well want to know about aliens, and I damn well want you to not lie to us. I really think a lot of the reason they're lying to us has to do with the cover-up of the free energy and the propulsion and stuff, because we're enslaved by partially the Rockefellers and stuff, and they have the oil and all that stuff, and so they love that control and stuff. So they don't want us having technology that sets us free. They give us technology that controls us more, you know what I mean? So So this data is just so epically deep. And John Lear basically backs up what Hubbard's saying. Because people are just like, what? Jesus is a part of this control system and all this stuff? It's wild, but I've teed it up now. I'm going to play you some of it. You got to hear it. In this interview, amazingly, the radio host Art Bell and John Lear both agree that we should not find out the truth about the UFO subject because it's just too deep and it's too mind-blowing. And whereas I strongly disagree, I think that we slowly should, over a 3-year period, get drip-fed all the data and find out the absolute truth. Okay? If we are enslaved here by aliens, we damn well should know. I really disagree with them. They think that they think that it's just too deep data and it'll just wreck people's lives and stuff. And you know, people don't want to know that they can just get abducted at any moment by an alien. It just scares the hell out of them. Right? But you can crash your car at any moment. At any moment, some disease can get released and just kill everyone. You know what I mean? Any moment, there could be a school shooting. You know what I mean? Any moment, an alien can come down in a craft, zap you up into it, and fucking kill you. Or do a genetic experiment on you. I understand that's scary, but it's a truth we have to face. Okay? And also, if you believe in your thought creating reality, that won't happen to you. Okay? And maybe if you haven't committed any overts, that won't happen to you, right? But these guys here in this interview, I don't agree with them at all. I think it's totally wrong. I think it's just like, yeah, let everyone know the truth. And I kind of think the same with, I don't like this attitude, this Freemason, like they have it as well in Freemasonry where they keep the data they know secret from us because they think we're not ready for it. And I think that's just wrong. I think it's like, no, stop lying to us. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this OT8 briefing, because it's like, Hubbard and Scientology, stop lying to us. Tell us the fucking truth. Let us know. You know what I mean? I don't like this stuff being kept secret. I understand it sounds freaking crazy. And the main reason I reckon why Hubbard keeps the OT level secret, right? Because I don't think people can run them. If I tried to do OT5, I just couldn't even run it. It would be really hard for me to try and run it. I don't think it can mess with my mind because I can barely even try and run it. I think the reason they keep these OT levels secret is because they sound freaking whacked and they don't want to come across as being whack, and it's out PR. It's not good for advertising. And also, some people who can't handle the truth hear this briefing I'm saying and they go, I've had it with Scientology, I'm leaving, Scientology is whacked and it's bullcrap. Or they might come across a Chris Shelton video talking about OT8, and instead of going, well, that sounds interesting, I don't know if that's true or not, they go, that sounds absolutely whacked, what the hell, what do you mean Christianity is bad, that's freaking outrageous, Scientology is crap, and then they leave and they never do Scientology. So from a sales point of view, you don't want people knowing this stuff. But I say stuff it. I say the scummy people who aren't ready for this information, who are just going to ridge on it and act silly, right? They don't deserve it, right? And also, they're going to, by the time they get up to OT8 in Scientology, they're not going to be ready for it anyway. They're just not ready for it. They're not. This is why you get people like Leah Remini who gets up to OT3 and she goes, what the hell, this is ridiculous. Excuse me, she did the prerequisites. Maybe she got skipped on things. Yeah, actually, she probably got skipped on things, I reckon. But she did the prerequisites. She was supposed to be ready for the data. These people did the OT8 prerequisites. So I was supposed to be ready for the truth briefing, but they heard it and go, what the hell, that's it, I'm leaving Scientology. They're not ready for it. You know what I mean? So it's just like they either quit Scientology before they've even started it because they've heard this video or because they saw a Chris Shelton video talking about OT8, right? They either quit then or they get all the way up there and then they quit. Either way, they're freaking scum, okay? They can't handle the truth. That is the line of their life. They can't handle the truth. They're pussies. And they're idiots and they're just dumb. They're just dumb, okay? So anyway, so that's why I'm for giving the truth and not keeping this information hidden from them and stuff. Okay, and it just, when you know this data, you can look at things in life and you can understand things so much more. And I know you're not going to believe any of this video and stuff, but you're going to think maybe it's true. And when you look into things, you'll be able to have a good idea of what Andy said, and you'll be like, oh, okay, so now I can start making sense of it. Oh, yeah, maybe it's what he says, and it'll take you 10 years or whatever, and then you eventually be like, wow, this briefing is actually the truth. Anyway, I'm going to play this thingo with John Lear and Art Bell.
is going on right now in our environment, and that would seem to be a real trouble spot for us. But again, I may not be looking at a big enough picture. I don't know. I mean, does that give us a failing grade? Is there some greater thing that we are to attain for them? I wonder what the nature of the experiment is, John.
I wouldn't even
know.
So John's saying I wouldn't even know what this alien experiment is with us life here on Earth. And I think that it's the whole idea is to trap us in bodies so that they can, because I've investigated this further, and I had this on another briefing as well, because there's some remote viewing data. They're sort of like milking us like cows, really. Like, they're using us as a prison. That's the Scientology idea. But it's also not just a prison. It also seems that they get energy from us, like in a Matrix style. Like, they plug us into the Matrix and they get a bit of energy from us and stuff. So that's also the deep truth. But in the briefing that Bob Lazar got from the government about the secret part of the government in the underground base and stuff, it just says they refer to us as containers, and like it doesn't specifically go into details. It doesn't say Earth is a prison planet, but it has groundbreaking detail. Anyway.
The experiment was about, and the reason is because every time you learn something new, the first thing the guy who's going to tell it is, well, to know, to understand this, first you have to know about so-and-so. Do you know about so-and-so? No. Mm-hmm. So then they have to explain.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's like this briefing. It's like, in order to explain the hardcore truth about Earth, it's like, well, you have to know about this, and you have to know about that, and you have to know about that. And that's why I'm making this long briefing, so I can explain everything, so that you can get the full picture and go, oh, I get it now. You know what I mean? But that's why if you just had a 5-minute briefing, if you just had a 3-page document, you're going to come across so many, you could say MUs, or you could say misunderstood concepts, or just not understood concepts, things that you just don't know about, and you're like, what the hell? And that's why people at the end of it are just like, what? And you like, there's no way you could ever read this OT8 student briefing one time and actually understand it. Like, you go over and you go, whoa, okay, again, and you look up, you go and you investigate numerous things. It sends you on all this past in order to try and understand it and stuff. It's so deep. And John Lear here is saying that when you try and investigate the truth about the nature of this experiment of life here on Earth, he's saying, you know, you have to know about this and you have to know about that, and if you don't know about it, you can't understand it.
I don't know such and such, I can't possibly, presume to know what the experiment is about. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. But I do, that is something I do want to know. I mean, if all the rest of this is true, then I want to understand what we're living. I guess we all want to understand that. Obviously, the information that they set up God and Jesus and all of that for us to control the experiment.
Exactly. Now you've got it.
That's a total killer. I mean, information of that sort would, I think, destroy the world as we know it. It certainly would destroy the world as we know it.
Yeah.
And then, so were these other religions? I mean, was all of man's religion, Buddha, all the rest of it, Buddhism? And
I can only say probably, because the only thing that Bob read in the document is the aliens sent Jesus and 2 others, and he told the names, and I can't remember what the names were.
The aliens sent Jesus and 2 others. This is what Bob said. This is what the secret intel from the government is about the UFO subject. We are finally here getting the data that I'm telling you that the government's been hiding from us. We are finally hearing what, like, a naval intelligence person would sit down and say, okay, this is the truth about life here on Earth. Bob Lazar got this briefing document. So new staff to these secret underground bases get the briefing document so they can understand what's going on, the truth about aliens and all that sort of stuff. Because they're about to go work on an alien UFO, and you can't just not tell them about aliens, right? Jesus, do you understand me? Did you hear what he just said? Jesus, the aliens sent Jesus, okay? So it's part of it. So that's how wild things are, okay? That's really, really deep. It's really, really deep. I'll play it again.
Associated with other religions, though.
All right, stuffed up. Anyway, this briefing has gone on long enough. I'm going to have to go into a part 2 because there is more to this, and it's going to get more disgusting and more outrageous if you don't think it's outrageous enough. If you're a lefty, because lefties have this aversion towards truth, they find the truth offensive and they go into fiction land. Like they hate any talk about any differences between the races. They think it means it's evil and disgusting and all this sort of stuff. And it's just like, we're talking science fact. They attack science fact. There's a man and a woman. They attack that and go, gender is a spectrum, and they get offended by facts. Okay? That's the one thing about the lefty, right? So if you're a lefty, don't listen to this. Don't listen to the part 2, because part 2 gets ugly. It goes into racism, because there's more you need to understand. You need to understand about the real truth. I haven't even hit you with the real truth, because you already heard about the prison planet, okay? You already heard, that, oh yeah, we're trapped here on Earth and we're actually spirits. There is more to this, and this is why this OT8 student briefing is really, really deep. There's more to this. It's awesome. It's cool, okay? But just remember, I'm going to put a link to this John Lear thing in the comments section, because you've got to listen to this full interview because it's amazing. But that line of it is like, whoa, 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 whoa. John didn't say, yeah, so it seems like Christianity and Jesus could be a part of the control system. He says, Bob said Jesus. Okay, the aliens said they sent Jesus because they got this briefing from the aliens or whatever, or it's data about the aliens. So Jesus is in on the conspiracy of trapping us here on Earth, is what I'm trying to say. Jesus is in on the whole alien control system. It makes sense. Hubbard is right, okay? What he said in that document was outrageous and sounded wild, but it is right, okay? I can't confirm the homo pedo stuff, but it's possibly right. It's very deep data. And the thing that's amazing about this is Hubbard was around before the internet, and Hubbard got this data from a different source. He worked it out looking at the evidence, looking into people's cases and stuff, whereas these guys got this evidence from the aliens, and probably from like I'm talking about the secret underground base people or whatever for the government. Got these briefings from investigating UFOs and using intelligence and stuff, but from a different source. Do you see what I mean? That really means something. Two independent sources coming to the same conclusion. It's like, whoa, this is deep. Okay? It seems like the people who have gone to work in these underground bases have been initiated into the secret about life here on Earth. And it's like they've cut a deal with the aliens and they've said, okay, you're the special chosen ones. We'll help you with science, we'll advance you, and you can have these underground bases and stuff. And we'll tell you the secrets of the universe or whatever. But you can't tell the masses. You know, they're treating humanity like it's a cult, like it's a secret society with different levels, like with the OT levels and stuff. So the people in the underground bases, they've been initiated into the secret OT4 or whatever. Do you see what I mean? But the masses, nah, they're not having any of that. We haven't been invited into their underground bases. We haven't been invited into getting the alien data and stuff. We've been treated just like commoners and stuff. We're not good enough for them or whatever. Anyway, whoa. Get ready for part 2. I think part 2 is the real truth. It gets even bigger. You find out about the interdimensional entities. And I'm not talking about body thetans or some energy in a room or a ghost or something. I'm talking about gods from another dimension that are outside this time and space. That's what I get into in the second part, because it's the whole hardcore truth, and you understand how the whole New World Order operates and how everything's functioning here on Earth, and you find about some hardcore data, it's going to go into disgusting racism on this next video, because you've got to find out about different body types and who their God is and who they have a mind connection with. Of course, not all of them, but definitely much more than the Japanese or the Indians or the Aryans. Anyway, I've been your host Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy. You've been listening to the Indie Scientology podcast. So remember, what you thought was impossible is possible.